What's up, everybody? Welcome into Hawk Talk on Melrose. I am Collin, joined today with Tyler. We are past the first bye week for Iowa football as we are gearing up against Wisconsin this weekend on Saturday night, another night game. I, for one, don't mind the night games. I know there's people out there like Chris Hassel who hate them, but another night game for Iowa football. And I think this is a game that, and I know we say this for every single game, but it feels kind of like the Rutgers game where it's must win. You know, the Indiana game, you want to win that game. I wouldn't really say it's a must win. This is a must win game because I think if you somehow lose this game, which could happen, I do think might not be good the rest of the way, considering who we still have to play moving forward. What we're going to do on this episode is kind of go over that game a little bit. We just thought, you know, we usually don't do prediction or preview episodes. I know I did one versus Indiana just because that was such a big game. But with the bye week and with us not doing one this last weekend, we just figured we'd hop on the mic. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into the quarterback situation. You know, it's still, like according to Lester a week ago, kind of cloudy. Kirk sort of clarified a little bit more yesterday. But we'll get into that, and then we'll talk now that we are pretty much halfway through the season. After Wisconsin, we'll be halfway through. But after the bye week, we've played 5 games. Are we disappointed in the season so far, or what do we think about the season so far? We'll get into that, and then maybe at the end, if we have some time, talk a little Iowa basketball. We will be doing we will be doing a basketball episode the next bye week, because at that point we are, like a week away from the first game. But we might bring up a little bit towards the end of this episode. So how we feeling for the Saturday night's game, Tyler?
Yeah, I think it all depends on Mark's health. I think I could see this going either way. I mean, I think if Mark plays, gives yourself a chance to go in there and to win. I'm not going to say drop 40 points like we did at home last year against this team, but win in a convincing fashion enough, double-digit points, 10, 13, 14 points, something like that. I do think if Hank Brown or Jeremy Hecklinski is the starting quarterback, I could see us handing the ball off 30, 40 times and trying to win a 13-10 slugfest, which those are those types of games that scare the hell out of me because it just comes down to one play here or there during the game, a turnover in the first half, second half, that swings the momentum, gives the other team a short field, and that's the ball game, or it comes down to a game-winning kick. Those marginal things that you and I talk about a lot on this podcast, that you have to be damn near perfect throughout 60 minutes of football, and it's just hard to do that. So I think it really comes down to who's the starting quarterback. And now, granted, I do think, if it is Hank Brown or Jeremy, obviously having a couple weeks to prepare and to implement a game plan and not just be, thrown into the situation like Hank was last game, I think that'll be better.
Yeah.
But
kind of reminds me of last year's situation when we played UCLA and Sullivan got hurt. But we had a bye week in there. We didn't ask Jackson Stratton to do a whole lot that game. We mainly ran the football, but he had to make a couple throws, and I do think the bye week definitely helped. Getting that extra week. That's why this bye week came at such a great time. We talked about in the last episode, it kind of sucks losing before the bye. And that's why you don't really want, you're like, God, I wish we played next week, but it came at a great time. And the problem that I have, that if Jeremy Hecklinski or Hank Brown do start, and who knows, we'll talk more about it here, and we decide to, we're just going to shut it down because we're starting one of those two guys and we're just going to run the football. I don't think that's a good recipe for success against this Wisconsin team, because yes, Wisconsin isn't very good this year, but the thing that they have been good at, they're actually 6th in the country in rushing defense, and they're number 2 in the Big Ten. At stopping the run. Meanwhile, their pass defense, they are 95th in the country. They're giving up a lot of yards through the air. So, I mean, we just want to run the football, but are we going to be able to do a whole lot given their success at stopping the run? And who knows, maybe our offensive line can do a good enough job where, that's an outlier for that game. And maybe we can run the football pretty good. But I just think in this game, like, you look at their passing defense versus their rushing defense. Let's take advantage and let's throw the ball around a little bit. But I do think it's going to be a little bit more tricky if it is Hank Brown or Jeremy Alinsky. I just think from the way Kirk, I was not feeling confident about Mark playing. I'm feeling a little bit more confident, but there's still a part of me that just thinks when it's all said and done, once we get to Saturday, I think next week's game is, even though it doesn't seem as big as it once was against Penn State, you really want him back for that game. And so I could see us just saying, let's just try to get out of Madison with a win. And we're going to play one or two of these, either Hank Brown or Jeremy Alinsky. I do think it was interesting on the depth chart to see the or, meaning like, hey, it could be either or. I mean, it's not just a solidified Hank Brown. He's the backup. Jeremy, has some say in that too. But I just have that feeling that it's probably going to be one of those two. But there is that small hope in me, just given what Kirk said. Mark has been practicing all that maybe he will go out there. The one thing I know for sure, though, if he does play, we're not going to see him run the football a whole lot. I mean, there's not going to probably be many designated runs like we did against Rutgers.
Well, I was just going to say that. I mean, so obviously, you obviously hope Mark plays, but at the same time, what scares me about him potentially playing if he's not 100% or whatnot, obviously you risk the long-term injury thing for the rest of the season, which would be terrible. But number two, I really feel like Mark's game is running the football, right? Like that's kind of what gets him, I feel like, going in terms of momentum and his confidence in the game, is him being able to run for some QB power first downs or short yardage stuff or goal line stuff. And so you kind of take all that away, because you're exactly right. You're not going to see any of that. And they're probably going to tell him, hey, don't even scramble. Just go down if you have to. Like, obviously, if you got a wide open, lane, you'll take it. But there will be no designed QB runs like you mentioned or anything like that. So a limited Mark Gronowski, how effective is that too? And I think that's what Kirk was alluding to. It's like, well, yeah, we want Mark to play, but if he's not going to be if he's not going to be himself, then what's really the point of him being out there? And like you said, you got some big games coming up on the schedule here after Wisconsin. So I agree with you. I feel a little more confident, but I could definitely see a world where they sit him this week.
And think about with like Mark too, when he does play and on third downs, right? We've been very effective this year, and even on fourth downs, because of Mark's ability to run the football. And Wisconsin, that's another thing, another positive, they don't have a whole lot of positives, but one of the other things that they're good at is third down defense. They're actually 14th in the country in that. And so Iowa's been pretty good on third down with Mark, but if you start one of the other two guys, like, are you feeling as confident on third down, especially against a defense that is pretty good at stopping it? I don't know. Like this game, I think, I'm on the boards 24/7, things like that. And, the predictions that everybody puts, like everybody's picking Iowa, and I'm picking Iowa too, but I don't think I'm as confident as maybe some people are, just given the fact that for Wisconsin, this game like matters for them, because this is probably, when you look at the rest of their schedule, this is that one game you're at home. It's a night game. It's homecoming. We've been hearing about the offseason, about they, were how embarrassed they got losing by 40 some against us last year. I just feel like this is a game that they're going to get up for. And you saw last week against Michigan. I didn't watch a whole lot of that game because I was watching the Iowa State game, but I did have it on the other TV. And I mean, they put up a fight against Michigan. It almost seemed like they were sort of starting to figure some things out a little bit. They were running the football a little bit better. Now in the second half, they could not run, but in the first half, they were doing a pretty good job. The big thing with them is their quarterback situation, right? It started off with Billy Edwards, and then he gets hurt, and then they go to Danny O'Neal, and I don't know if he got benched, but then they go with this other guy, Austin Simmons from Southern Illinois, and he actually didn't have a bad game against Michigan. So I'm guessing if Billy Edwards can't play, I'm to the point where I hope he does because he hasn't really played a whole lot this year. But if I'm sure it's going to be Austin Simmons who gets the nod. So I think defensively for Iowa, I feel pretty good. It's not like we're playing. I mean, think about the last 2 games that we have played at Rutgers, and I know it's Rutgers, but man, I mean, they have a good passing attack. I mean, some of the best wide receivers probably in the Big Ten, and you have a quarterback that's experienced on the road. And then you think about you come home, then you play Indiana, one of the better offenses in the country. And now, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because when you compare the last 2 offenses against this offense, this offense is nowhere close to the other 2. But we should be able to keep this low scoring. And so then at that point, okay, offense, can you just do enough to win this game? And I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like that type of game. Like that's kind of what I was referencing at the beginning. Yeah. It's just like that slugfest type of game where you hope that something gets going on our side of the ball on offense because whether it's Mark or Hank or Jeremy, you got to find what they do best and what they can do in that game.
Yep.
And if it's screens, if it's just quick passing game to get the ball out quick so you're not, letting him sit back there and end up taking a sack or something like that. And just being creative, right? Just not being so predictable, and that's the biggest thing that I look for in this game because, I feel really good if Mark's out there, but if he's not, then it's like you gotta still be able to pass the ball. Makes me nervous, but I think you're right. Like this is a must-win game for sure.
One more note with the offense, sounds like Jazz is for sure out and also Terrell Washington. So it's just like, man, like our running backs, we just can't get healthy. Once one guy comes back, another guy gets hurt. But Xavier Williams is back, which is good. So you just ride with those 3 guys of Moulton, Williams, and Nathan McNeil. And I want to continue to see Nathan McNeil get more carries. I think he's the real deal. And then one other thing too, Reese Vanderzee sounds like he has the potential to play this weekend. I think Sam Phillips was the one that kind of spilled the beans and someone tweeted back, well, he's no longer getting media availability because I think he just said how he's been back practicing. He's been looking good. So that kind of, to me, tells me that he's probably going to be suiting up this weekend. Now, how much is he going to play? I don't know, but getting him back is huge, right? When that happened right before the season, it really did sting a little bit because he's probably your best wide receiver or at least your best red zone wide receiver. And so getting him back, I think, is massive, especially moving forward. If he can stay healthy the rest of the year, I think that's just big news for Iowa. Prediction time. I mean, I know we don't usually do predictions, but what do you think the final score will be?
I think it's going to be tough. I really do. I don't see us going in there and dominating just because even if Mark is out there, I still think it could be a close game just given Mark's, mobility or lack thereof. And then obviously, if not, it's the other 2 guys that don't have a ton of experience. So I'm gonna go 21-17 Iowa.
Yep.
I think it's a tight game.
Yeah, I was gonna say 23-13 Iowa to win this game. Low scoring affair. I think the over under 37, maybe 36. So
I thought I saw 35.5, but I could
maybe it went down to that. It would not surprise me. Like this is a game that I think will be low scoring, but who knows? Maybe it'll end up being a shootout. But it screams low scoring given the circumstances, given Iowa's defense against a not so great Wisconsin offense, and then. Are we playing a backup? Will we just try to run the football? So, it screams the under. But, I'm going 23-13 just to wrap it up. Yeah, I mean, definitely a must win because if you lose this game, you're 3-3 going into Penn State. Just kind of feels like the season is sort of over at that point. And even though, like we're even with the record that we have now, it's kind of sucks, but it doesn't feel like the season's over yet, right? Because we still have opportunities. And, our next bye week, we have 3 games for the next bye week. And hypothetically, let's just say, like you win the next 3 games and then you go into that bye week think about how you're feeling, right? So that's why the season's not over yet.
Right,
but if you lose
right.
this game, it's definitely feeling like that. And then, you saw Penn State last week against UCLA. Like, that seems like more of a winnable game. Not saying we will win, but after how we played against a top 10 team in Indiana at home with the crowd, and then you saw what Penn State did against UCLA, that game definitely seems more winnable at this point. And then you get Minnesota at home, which, I mean, that seems like a winnable game as well. So, yeah, huge opportunity this weekend. Get the win. Be 4-2 going to that Penn State game. Another night game inside Kinnick Stadium. Should be a great atmosphere as long as we get the win this weekend against Wisconsin. All right, so the next...
Well, I would say one thing I was going to say is one thing that we don't ever talk about that much on here is special teams, but I hope our special teams has gotten a lot better after this bye week.
Yeah, we need
because
that.
We've had some really high highs and really low lows, and I feel like when you talk about a game like Wisconsin on the road, where you need everything else to be damn near perfect, that, Drew's got to get better, but also everywhere on special teams has got to get more consistent. So I hope that's something that's improved.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, with my prediction, for example, 23-13. I mean, you're talking field goals, right? At that point, so Drew needs to knock them down. Like we can't keep missing field goals, like in the Indiana game, Rutgers game, right? It didn't cost us in the Rutgers game, but it almost did. You got to make field goals, and so special teams will be very critical this next weekend. All right, so the next topic we're going to talk about, now that we are entering, or we're finishing up our first bye week, we're 5 games in, we're almost halfway through the season. Has this year been a disappointment so far for Iowa football? And I was thinking about this a little bit more. Record-wise, I don't think it's that big of a disappointment, because I think for some people, 3-2 was probably maybe the position when you factored in having to play at Iowa State, at Rutgers, which is a little bit tougher, Indiana. I think most people probably had us at 4-1, but 3-2 is, I'm sure some people had us at 3-2. I think for me, it's more like before the season, if I told you, okay, we're going to beat Albany, UMass, and Rutgers, those are 3 wins, but I'm not going to tell you if we beat Iowa State or Indiana. But what I will tell you is the Iowa State game, we're going to hold Rocco Beck to 130 yards. They're only going to score 1 touchdown. They're going to have a muff punt where we get the ball like in, almost in the red zone. We're going to have an 8-minute scoring drive in the third quarter. And then the Indiana game, a team that just beat Illinois 63-10, we're going to hold them to only like 300 yards. They're only going to have 2 touchdowns in the game. We're going to get 2 4th-and-1 stops. We're going to get an interception that pretty much gets us at the 25-yard line. If I tell you all that, you're like, we're 5-0 going into the bye week. And that is where like the disappointment lies, is because we are literally a few plays away. And credit Iowa State and Indiana, I'm not taking their wins away, but we are a few plays away in each game to being 5-0, having 2 ranked wins, 1 being on the road. We're probably a top 12-ish team in the country.
Yep.
And the way those 2 games happen, like all the things I just said to you, like this happened, that happened, this happened, that's like typical, like, okay, Iowa finds a way to win in most years. And unfortunately, we actually ended up losing both of those games, even though everything I just said was like pro Iowa, like that is, recipe for success. Well, 2 losses there. And so for me, that's where the disappointment lies.
100%. The episode that we had right before the season with Colby, I said that the thing that, I can't remember the exact topic or question, how we phrased it, but the thing that I was like most worried about was if we can finally beat some of these ranked opponents. Yeah. And we had plenty of opportunities, and we're right there. Like you just mentioned, we're a play or 2 away from winning the game. And it's so, it's frustrating and it's disappointing to continue to see us come up short time and time again. And, for a variety of different reasons, right? Obviously, Iowa State, you could really blame the offense 100%. Indiana, I mean, you could blame the offense, but you could also blame the fact that Mark didn't finish the game, and, special teams and stuff like that too. So, again, doesn't matter the specifics on it. It's just, I agree 100%. It's disappointing to know that we're right there.
Yep.
But we're coming up short again. And so I I don't like to look ahead because we got Wisconsin, but that Penn State game, I know it's not a ranked game.
And that's the thing. They might be ranked. If they beat Northwestern, they're 4-2. They might be, but yeah, I don't know if they will or not.
I think that's almost kind of like a must-win game still, because it's like, Penn State's still a really good team. It's going to be, a challenge, no doubt, even if they're ranked or not, whatever. But it's like, you got to kind of save this season. And so the way it started is disappointing, I do think, but you have a chance to redeem yourself with some of the teams that are left on the schedule.
Yeah, for sure. I just said it a little bit ago. You got 3 more games until the next bye week. You win those 3 games and you're sitting at 6-2 going into the bye week against Oregon. I mean, yeah, it's a whole new discussion at that point, right? And so, yes, just because I said so far it is kind of disappointing, you're exactly right. We have every opportunity to kind of redeem ourselves. And the one positive that has been for this year is we haven't, given the Iowa State game and the Indiana game, it's not like we've gotten blown out or looked embarrassed. Like, we put up a fight against both teams. Right. Indiana game, I mean, honestly, we played as good as we could play. And given how much momentum Indiana had going into that game, given how the game started, I mean, you couldn't be more proud of the way we fought and, the way we competed. And it sucks that we came up short. It sucks that Mark got hurt, because you talk about a season defining win. It could have been that game, right? Like, it could have been that game going into the bye week, but unfortunately it just didn't happen. So yeah, I'm not, like, record wise, not really disappointed. It's just the fact that both of those games, man, we were right there. We were a few plays. It's like the what if this just would have happened? What if that would have just happened? Yep. And unfortunately with Iowa football, I feel like that's been the case the last few years, the what ifs. And at some point we got to just do it, right? Got to get over the hump. And that's what sucks.
Well, I was going to say that's just a little bit of like what we were talking about after that Indiana game, or at least I was. It's like the way we play, I feel like we're always right there, but we're just not good enough. So it's like something in that game plan or that strategy of Kirk's, it's got to be tweaked a little bit for us to finally, get over the hump. We'll just have to wait and see. But plenty of games out there to do this or to have a successful season for sure.
Plenty of games and plenty of big games still ahead, which is nice. And it's not the Big Ten West where the rest of the schedule, you're just playing Purdue and Northwestern and Illinois when they were bad. Yeah. Like you got some big opportunities coming up and some big games inside Kinnick Stadium. So yeah, we will leave it there for football. Hopefully we can get it done this weekend against Wisconsin. We'll obviously have an episode out on Sunday going over it. Hopefully all positive. For us, obviously going to the Penn State game, really want to win because I want to go into that game with some juice, with some momentum. I just think you lose against Wisconsin. I just don't know what the atmosphere is like that day against Penn State. Right. So just find a way, get it done, get out of Madison with the win. All right. So we're going to end this episode. We're not going to get deep into basketball. I just want to share a little bit with tomorrow being Big Ten media days for basketball. I just can't believe that we're getting so close to the start of the Ben McCollum era, which is awesome. It seemed like forever ago, which it kind of does. I mean, it was late March, early April that he got hired, and it just felt like, man, the season's so far away, and here we are, less than a month away from the season. I saw today the media poll came out, and Iowa's predicted to finish 8th in the Big Ten, which I think is super impressive. You talk first year head coach, top half of a league that's pretty damn good. I'm not saying it's the best league in basketball, but it's a pretty competitive league, and to be predicted to finish top half, obviously polls don't really mean anything, is pretty cool. And that's where the excitement lies for all of us. Obviously I'm just super pumped to see how this team competes. I think one thing for sure is the defense is going to be way better. We're going to be way more physical. And then that's what gets me excited, because that's something that I have for the last how many years just got so pissed about the lack of defense, the lack of physicality, always playing soft. I hated that. Like I was so over that. And so
it's our number one complaint.
Yep. And so I'm just super pumped. Schedule came out. what was it, 2 weeks ago, and some intriguing matchups. We'll be going to the Xavier game on November 14th. Super excited for that game. It's kind of like the first official home game. I know we have 2 home games before that, but it's against 2 really bad teams. Mm-hmm. I'm getting pretty excited for the season.
It is crazy how fast basketball season is coming. We're not even halfway through the football season. We're already nearing basketball, so it's crazy. But no, I think the poll you just talked about, I mean, I think it shows a lot of respect, I think, for Ben and obviously Bennett, what they think of that combination, obviously coming to Iowa City now. So, and I think, I see Bennett, preseason All-American type player in the Big Ten and all Big Ten type of guy. And he, I can't wait to see how dynamic he is. I mean, Iowa basketball, we've actually been blessed to have some pretty good players, pretty damn good players. And I think he's going to be another one of those guys that, steps in and seamlessly balls out. So I'm so excited to see this team.
Well, I'm excited for him and the duo between him and Hausen, or Hausen, or however you pronounce his last name. Like, I'm excited for that as well.
The backcourt will be dynamic for sure.
It'll be fun to watch. But yeah, we'll just leave it there. I just wanted kind of like a sneak peek to Iowa basketball. Once again, in a couple weeks, we will do an episode just talking all things basketball, 30 minutes. We'll kind of go through the schedule, kind of go through what we think the lineup's going to be, kind of go through kind of our prediction for the year. So we'll get into all that, and we'll probably do that once again during the next bye week for Iowa football, which is scheduled late October. So that's right before the season. One thing I will say, though, I'll end it here. We better be getting new jerseys this year, new uniforms for Iowa basketball. I really want that to happen. Yep. That's something I've been screaming about since Ben got hired, or even before Ben. I said, we need a new identity, new coach, just new uniforms, just completely start a new era in Iowa City. And then we hire Ben, and it's like, it's a no-brainer. But we have yet to see something, and that's what gets me a little nervous. But I really hope that here in the next few weeks we get a little surprise and we have some new uniforms. I just think it'll create even more excitement. I know it sounds stupid, but it's the little things that all add up.
We've already seen some small renovations to the student section, right? Yep. Which was something that he talked about. So, I'm not ruling out the possibility of some uniform changes too. Yep,
exactly. That, and they did some renovations in the practice arena. They added some stuff on the walls and stuff. So like, they're definitely, it's little, it's baby steps, but it's just something to just kind of change, and kind of start a new era in Iowa City. So that's what I love.
How awesome is it, by the way, last thing, is it to be excited for like Iowa basketball finally? Like it's just this new feeling of excitement.
Like for me, like I always get, like every year I always get like excited for the basketball season, but it's not like this. It's not this excited where I'm counting down the days
because you knew what to expect
November 4th.
with Fran's teams, right? Yeah. At least I did. Great offense, terrible defense. You're going to be in shootouts every single game. This year, you have a chance to go out and beat some really good teams, I think.
Or we're beating a team and then all of a sudden we're down by 15. I hate that. or we start a game
a blink
off.
Of an eye. Yeah.
We're all day you're waiting for that game. Like you're super pumped for it. And then you turn on the game in the first 2 minutes, you're already down like 14-0. Like I feel like that happened a lot for Iowa basketball. Unless we just were shooting lights out and then we were up. But I mean, that's the thing. You just relied on offense. And if the offense wasn't there, well, you're kind of screwed. So, but I'm super pumped. All right. Well, that will do it for this episode. We will be back again here in a few days going over Iowa versus Wisconsin. Hopefully we get the dub. But until then, have a good rest of your week and go Hawks.